just figured I'd want to show you something here. I'm making my own windshield for my GL1100. There's one I made the other day, sort of got a dome type of shape. And I also made another one. Let me bring it over here, which is a very much a smaller version here. Smaller version being a little cut. See, it goes way down here. All right, and I just want to show you what I've done, or a way of cutting now. I find this is acrylic, right? It's acrylic sheet. It's a 24 by 48, which is good because a 24 inch is exactly the measurement you need to fit actually on the GL1100 Goldwing fairing. So what I'm doing is I'm using a soldering iron with flat tip, and I've already traced out the dimensions I want. It's going to be a little bit higher than this, but more square. Let me just show you here. More square on the sides going up, and then a dome. Figured try different ones. I found that the low cut one, even though it looks cooler, and I'll include a picture in this. It looks cooler, but it gives a lot of wind noise. So I decided to try different sizes with the acrylic. Now I paid, this is Canadian, I paid $21 after tax for each sheet. So this is my third sheet and third windshield, and showing you how it goes. So what I do is I use a soldering iron here. Hopefully this will pick up. And of course I trace the line with a pen. Now what this does, of course, as you know, what all soldering irons do is they melt. Alright, so hopefully I got it in the picture there. It melts, so all I do is I go along the line, and while it melts, applying a little bit of pressure, just making sure that it goes through. Alright, so now you don't have to go right through, but it's a lot easier if you do. Then you won't have to worry about cracking or breaking when you try to snap it. So, because I find with sawing sometimes, if the sheet vibrates, it will cause spider cracks. And actually that one that I just showed you up there did have a crack, which I end up patching. But again, these are all, for me, prototypes until I get the right size that I want, that fits me good, that gives me the perfect amount of wind protection that I want. You know, because everybody's torso is different, and getting the right size is important. Anyway, so I'm going to finish cutting through this, well, heating through this, and then I'll show you the result. Alright. Okay, we're back. As you notice here, I've gone through the with the soldering iron. Now you'll notice there's a little bit of lips. I don't know if you can see them on the you can see I'm grabbing at my fingernail, and it needs to be sanded down at this point, but there's no cracks or anything from the glue, or from the soldering iron with the heat. So it's a good way of doing it. And of course this should come apart now. I'll take that off. And one thing too when you're doing this is, of course, you know how plastic has that awful smell too when you burn it. It's a good idea to wear a mask like I'm wearing here, and I'm working on the edge of my driveway here, so as you can see. So that way you get a good airflow. Either that or have a fan blowing it away from you. It makes it a lot more pleasant doing it. It took me about maybe 10 minutes to go through this, so it doesn't take very long to do. Now I'm going to do the bottom part of the shield, and I'll show you at the end of that one, okay? So we're getting close, but then again, I'm going to have to sand these down after. Alright, I'll be back in a bit. Quick little note, you notice I'm cutting around here. One thing is, if you do have it secured on one side, the plexiglass, and then have some, this is for the finer points here, when you're getting into smaller cuts, not these big long cuts, but you can actually have the soldering iron in quite a way. Just hold it and just apply light pressure, and it'll cut through nicely, and you can do the curves like here and what have you without much problem. So it's kind of nice to do it this way. And another point I didn't mention at the beginning, leave there's a film on both sides, plastic film. Leave it on till you're totally done. Like when I say totally done, I mean after if you sand it even. Just leave this plastic the sheets on both sides on, because it'll scratch the finish if you don't. Okay, so it's a quick little note. So you notice things are coming along here and I'll get back to you. Okay, got it all cut out the way I want it. Now I'm gonna have to sand it to get all the burrs and what have you. Now you realize too that once you put it in the bike or on the bike, it does curve a bit to match the fairing, so you don't need to actually heat it to curve it. Some people do that for certain, depending on the bike itself. You can actually just use like a heat gun and just hold it really close, try not to burn it, and you can actually bend it a bit and it'll actually stay like that after a while. So anyway, but in this case we don't need to do it for the Honda GL, for that guy right there. And so anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand down just to get these burrs out of the way. Alright, and I'm going to show you that in a bit, just what I'm doing, and then I'll finish it off and we'll go from there. Alright, so that's what she looks like roughly. It doesn't look all that great right now, but once we sand it down it'll start looking a little better. Alright. Okay. So what I did was I sanded down. I actually took some of the burrs off with a little chisel too. That helped a lot. Now I'm going to put a trim over top of this. It's still got the plastic, so it looks all dirty. Still got the plastic on it. And doesn't look too bad once it's domed here. I'm going to be painting it black as well. So anyway, I'll let you know once it's all done and put on the bike. Alright, so just let you know, I did another one here, hopefully a light change. That's my smaller one. Now I didn't care how, because I cut these actually. This was actually cut with a saw. This is actually cut with glue. Now the thing is, with the glue there's a lot less of a mess. The only pieces that are left over are the pieces that you actually cut off. There's no like plastic residue anywhere. The only place that you can have plastic residue is when you sand it. Alright, so I'm going to, like I said, paint it, do all that stuff, put it on the bike, and then give you a show. Alright? Okay, here is my next step on this particular windshield. Is I put the trim on, and I'm removing the plastic on the one side. This is going to be my back side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it just like I did my other three. This is the one I did. I left a little bit of gradient down here. Now this is what I mean when you cut with a saw. Sometimes you'll get these spider cracks, so I put some glue in there just to hold it in, but you get the idea what I was trying to do with this particular windshield. This new one here, as you notice, it's much squarer, goes up a little higher and then comes down. It's about almost the same height, but it's going to be more up and oval at the top, or not as oval as that was, more squared off. So this is going to be here. You'll notice it more when it's on the bike. It's going to look okay, I think, and it'll probably give me a little bit better wind protection. So what I'm doing is I'm taking off the one side now. I'm leaving the other side on because, again, I don't want to take that off until actually it's on the bike. Just so that I don't scratch it. So what I'm going to do is take this off. I'm going to paint this one side. I only paint the underside, so I don't paint this side here, right? So it looks nice, like it's almost like it's factory. I actually paint the underside. Okay, and just like this other shield I got over, or have over here. Alright, so that's the unpainted side. It's got some fingerprints on there, and that's the painted side. So you can notice a little bit of the paint, but when it's on the bike you actually don't recognize it or notice it at all. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do next. Now this is actually the first time, this is my third windshield. I've got those other two that I've made. Two of them I used a saw. I used the Dremel saw. Now it works pretty good, but again you have to be careful for the spider cracks, or for the cracks itself, because it will crack and it'll actually go a ways down. This one here, actually a chip came off. So you have to make sure you actually have a really high speed saw, and don't start sawing until you actually like start the saw up and then get up to speed before you start cutting the plastic. Make sure you have the plastic or the acrylic or what have you sturdy on a stable platform, or else again if it vibrates at all it will cut. Some people say put styrofoam underneath, some people put some piece of plywood underneath and then a plywood on top to do the cuts. That's great for straight edge, but when you got to do a little bit of a curve, I find that the heat process works a lot better. Okay, just especially doing something like that. It's very hard to do with a saw to do it well. Again, you will have to sand on this one here. Hopefully the light doesn't affect us here. This one here I was able to sand it down to a nice sort of finish. Now that takes a lot longer, of course, than putting the trim on. Now I just put the trim on because it is a lot easier. It covers up any flaws as well, and like I said, I'm blacking it out, so it's not that important. but it also finishes it off, okay, nicely, I find. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it, and then once it's done I'm going to put it on the bike. Here, you can take a look at that particular one. Alright, again, it looks like a factory finish right there. I don't know if you can tell by the camera, but it actually does look very good when you I put a gloss paint, spray paint on the back. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do with this one as well, and I'll let you know how it turns out. Okay, so that'll be on my next little clip. Okay, it's all painted, and what I'm going to do right now, I'll show you. Here's a side view. There's the view from the back here, and here's the front. Now again, I left the gradient down here a bit, just that's little smears from the polish I just put on there. Just use some of that Honda polish. Okay, so there you have it, guys. I'm gonna try it out and see how it goes, and I'll let you know. All right. So anyway, that's so I've made 3 windshields now for $60. That includes taxes. All right, and just to let you know, you can do your own. And if you have any comments, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, thanks a lot.